Hey Vi, thanks for reading my poem. That was really cool. I hadn't heard it or looked at it since I wrote it myself, and I that's how I write songs and poems. I just kind of sit down and do it, and it was really cool to hear someone else read it, and especially you because I feel like you more than anybody else, since we grew up with that same kind of sense that the poem I tried to capture with that I tried to capture with the poem. Um, so that was really cool. Um, Thanks. But today I had my class with Major Jackson, and it was pretty cool. He did a little bit more criticism than I would have liked. I kind of thought that it was going to be him basically saying to everyone, "Hey, your poems are awesome, nothing to complain about." But he gave us like pretty intense criticism. It was helpful, but he I got to read my poem out loud, which was really cool. Um, there were about 10 other kids there, and we got to my poem last, and I got to the one line about rivulets of frost on the trolley tracks or something like that. It had something to do with the snow in the winter, and he kind of let out like this audible like the kind of thing someone would say if they were really impressed with, I don't know, kind of like right on, when someone says that. But I don't know. It just made me feel good. Like a professional poet, like enjoyed the imagery I used, and then he said that his favorite line was "squeeze into the car like an eel," which is funny because I tacked that line on as an afterthought because the prompt required us to have at least one simile, and I figured, hey, I'm pissed off and frustrated that I have to use a simile in this damn poem because I hate similes. So may as well do it. What's one thing that really pissed me off? One of the only things that pissed me off about living in West Philly. Maybe it's standing in the freezing cold winter air, waiting for a trolley to come, and then one comes, and then we find that there are like 30 people crammed into the very front of the car, and they can't move back, and the conductor can't open the middle door for us to get on, so the car takes off, even though there's plenty of room and we're standing in 30-degree weather. But anyway, so I thought, hey, why not attach that simile to something that pisses me off? So I did, and it wound up being apparently the line that everyone loves. Funny how that ad ends up, I guess, but he said that I should have used more allusions, but frankly, the way he uses allusions in some of his work is not the way that I would write poetry, because like if you, and I said this to him today, I said my only problem with allusion is if you allude to something that someone's never heard of before, it becomes an irrelevant reference and actually makes the person incredibly bored. So he thought I should have named specific street names, but my whole point was that I didn't know specific street names. It was that I knew stories. And anyway, he said that, and one kid said that it could have been 3 times longer, like there was a lot more I could have talked about, which is true. So I don't know, maybe I'll go back and revise it, but I was really happy with the event today. I mean, it's pretty cool that he came to Drexel and that he wound up critiquing one of my poems. And it's funny because I was reading Hoops when we were at Torch Lake, and he mentions explicitly in one poem, he mentions Torch Lake by name. So I said to him at the end of the session, I said, "Oh, quick, Mr. Jackson, you in reference to illusion, you said something about Torch Lake in one of your poems. It's funny. I was actually like reading the book there, and he started laughing really hard. I said, well, so what's the deal with that? And he said his ex-wife's family rents a cabin up there in Bel Air on the east side of the lake every summer. But you know, he said at one point he's like, I told my graduate students this. You need to just not say I remember in poems. And that was kind of a good point. Like I said, I remember and I recall a lot in the poem, and I don't really need to do that, I think. So he really did like give helpful criticism. It just wasn't exactly what I was expecting from the session. So very cool. He said one thing that really stuck out in my mind that I'm actually going to put on my Facebook quotations because I found it so cool. It was really short. In reference to creative writing, don't declare evoke. Conjure an image for someone. Use imagery that's so overwhelming that it actually persuades the person that they're there. it's interesting. I've never heard creative writing or poetry compared as a persuasive or rhetorical thing, but it is. You have to persuade the person to feel a certain way, which is pretty incredible. You don't do that with any other kind of writing. It's not enough to say, he gave the example, it's not enough to say, I love you. You have to prove it. You have to use something to show it. If you're going to use words on paper to describe it, you need to use certain words and certain structures that will actually show that, which is pretty incredible that we can communicate like that. And he also said something about poetry and creative writing kind of being a window into your past self. You read it, he said, I read poems that I wrote 2 years ago and say, who the hell is that guy? And that's really cool. Like, I'm going to stop throwing away stuff I write. I'm going to stop throwing away things that are half completed on my computer of writing. I'm just going to hold on to them for as long as I can, because they really do, they do show who someone is. And while it's incredibly egotistical to think that someone would want to read everything you've written, sometimes writing can just be for you, and you can look back on it years from now and realize, like, hey, I've grown as a person and maybe as a writer, and I'm in a different place than I was then. And I don't know, if you live your life day to day too much, you have no sense of progression as a person. And writing can help you see how you've progressed. Anyway, that's my tangential discussion of creative writing. Now, last but certainly not least, hopefully, I will have tagged you in this, and you're listening, Emily. Now, Friday, we're going somewhere. You need to wear stuff that you wouldn't mind walking a good ways in, and I'll give you one hint about where our surprise is. Viola, you may actually know where we're going after I give Emily this hint, but we are going somewhere. It involves the color green, coffee, trolley cars, and a very special part of Philadelphia. So, you can ponder that. I'll see you Friday. Viola, I'll see you when you do your next video. And for now, everyone, DFTBA!